One of the things that I feel Maverick did right was to feature other characters on its covers for the first few issues. Issue 2 has Sabretooth and Wolverine on it, Issue 3 has Vindicator and Puck of Alpha Flight, Issue 4 has Wolverine again, so on and so forth. Now, promising guest stars is always a mixed bag, as the creative team must then feature those characters in a way that's smart for them, but still tell their main story. If done poorly, it can really damage a book's reputation. If done correctly, guest stars can draw in new readers, and hopefully they enjoy what they read so much that they're willing to stick around. This is what got me as a kid. Sure, the new number 1 on the first issue got me to buy that issue, but promising Team X-related answers in issue 2, Alpha Flight, another series that I had checked out at the time, in issue 3, and then we had the man himself, Wolverine, in issue 4? How could an X-geek like myself stay away? I had to keep coming back to Maverick. I mean, I pretty much didn't have a choice. They may as well have had a gun to my head. Who am I kidding? I love this stuff. My name is Ben, and this is Comic Book Breakdown episode 10.5, Maverick, Found and Lost. Issue 3 opens in southeastern Ontario at Kearney's Peak. The once luxurious ski lodge fell behind on its numerous bank loans and mortgages and ended up in the hands of the Canadian government. This makes it the perfect site to house an important witness. No one should be here, and the place certainly looks deteriorated and empty. Inside, however, is another issue. Heather Hudson and Eugene Judd, otherwise known as Vindicator and Puck of Alpha Flight, Canada's premier superhero team, are inside. They're joined by a number of additional guards who are meant to help protect Major Barrington. All of which is fine and good, but Heather is still nervous. Alpha Flight has had a number of questionable occurrences over in their own book, and she doesn't trust them very much right now. Puck, secretly attracted to Heather, tries to calm her nerves. As the pair talk about their misgivings with their governmental handlers, Pierre Cloche enters the room. Cloche is the Director of Foreign Affairs for Department H, the government agency that runs Alpha Flight. The heroes have the humility to at least try to save face, but Cloche really isn't bothered. They may answer to him on this job, but he isn't their boss. If they have legit concerns about Department H, then they should voice them. A guard then approaches Cloche. The perimeter watch failed to report in, so Vindicator and Puck go to investigate. They find the guards unconscious but alive. They also find Maverick. I really like Gonzalez's economy of script here. Everything that I just described happened over 3 pages, and we met our guest stars, picked up on some of their own plot threads, met new character Cloche, and got to Maverick's presence in the book. That's some solid writing. The dialogue is fairly expository. The characters don't sound terribly natural. You can tell that the author is telling us information more than letting his cast speak as themselves, but it still works. It's less engaging as a reader, but it is still functional. I also love that Gonzalez works in the Alphans' mistrust of their bosses and Puck's infatuation with Heather, both of which are major plot points of their own book. It shows that Gonzalez is paying attention and making an effort to keep them consistent. He's not just winging it. This is a pretty solid, if stiff, opening. After getting Alpha Flight's attention, Maverick fires his crossbow grapple to one of the ski lift chairs and zips away. He dares the Alphans to chase him, but falters for a moment. As he's sliding down the rope, he has a flash of sliding away from Hammer on his line, just like when he woke up in Pushkin's Manor. But that never happened. It's like Maverick can't really focus on his recent memories. What is happening to him? Vindicator, whose suit allows her to fly and tap into geothermal effects, approaches Maverick. She blasts him with hot steam to get his attention. Vindicator, who is old friends with Wolverine, knows the stories that Logan used to tell about Maverick. He is dangerous, sure, but he's got morals and a strong sense of ethics. If there's a reason that he's here, it must be a good one, so they should talk. Okay, sure. Maverick surrenders. Then he tosses his crossbow to Vindicator. An electrical charge in it shocks her as she catches it, and it shorts out her suit. Maverick and Vindicator fall to the ground, but it does no damage to Maverick. He gets up, finding an angry Puck charging him. But Maverick is charged up from the impact now, so he super punches Puck. The impact jars another memory free, though, of Maverick dying? With the vision comes a blinding headache, and so Maverick falls to his knees. Does this have to do with his powers? The virus remission? Or is this something worse? We know that Pushkin messed with Maverick's mind, even going so far as to implant hypnotic transmitters into his skull. This is particularly dramatic to Maverick, but it's not really dramatic to us, since we already know what's going on here. This is a nice little fight scene, though. Maverick is fast, his attacks are precise, and even though he knows that the Alphans are heroes and friends of Logan's, he doesn't hesitate to do his job. Gonzalez keeps that cold, unpersonal edge to Maverick in the field, and I love that. He even has a moment where, after shocking Vindicator, Maverick tells Puck that this isn't a game. Despite fighting superheroes and engaging in a classic misunderstanding fight, Maverick keeps that real-world espionage edge, and that's great. I also like Gonzalez's choice of Alphans. At this time, Alpha Flight consisted of 6 team members, which included Vindicator and Puck. But they're the only ones who have history with Wolverine, so they're the only ones who could have potentially heard about Maverick from him. If any of the rest of the cast was here, they would have no compunctions about fighting Maverick. And having read that book, I would argue that a few of those team members would actually want to fight Maverick. Vindicator and Puck are also the least powerful of the team. Puck is basically just super tough, and Vindicator is suspicious of her suit, so she hesitates to use it. These two are the best two to send after Maverick, and again, shows us that Gonzalez understands what he's doing. They weren't picked at random from Alpha Flight. Gonzalez has a plan here. After the fight, we move back to Pushkin's Manor on the edge of James Bay, Canada. There, we find Elena Ivanova, who has been Pushkin's captive for nearly 2 weeks. She's tired and worn from being used to infiltrate Maverick's mind, but she's alive. The door to her cell opens, revealing a woman in all black with her face covered and a high-tech gun in her hand. She takes off her mask, revealed to be Isabel Ferguson. Wow, that was a lot easier than I expected that to be. Isabel frees Elena, and the pair link minds in order to swap notes quietly. Turns out that Isabel has tracking devices in all of her tech prior to its cell, so she's been hunting down the tech that Pushkin stole, hoping to find Maverick and Elena. Unfortunately, Maverick isn't here. Elena explains about Maverick's brainwashing and how he left on a job recently. Isabel arms Elena with a neural synaptic disruptor. It'll down anyone that they meet for at least half an hour without killing them. The ladies need to learn Maverick's location, so they storm Dr. Langstrom's lab, and Elena grabs her by the throat. "Have you ever been mind-probed involuntarily, Doc?" Elena smiles. "This is going to hurt." This is another fast scene, but all of the story elements work. Isabel's way of hunting her allies down makes sense for her character. The ladies ally quickly and get all caught up, and of course they get Maverick's current mission. I like that there's no doubt here that Maverick was brainwashed. No, well, maybe he really did decide to just work for Pushkin, I don't know, kind of bullcrap. No, everyone here is smart and effective, and I appreciate that. Back at Kearney's Point, Maverick moves through the guards in the lodge easily. He's worried about his remission ending already, thanks to his memory flashes, but he can't fret about it for long. He's found Barrington, and he confronts the man that he believes ruined his life. Barrington is showing his age, his white hair a halo that circles his bald head. He recognizes Maverick, of course, but why is he here? Maverick explains that he's come to kill him. Then he lays out his list of grievances. Knowing that the accusations are all lies, Barrington tries to stand up. In his old age, though, he slips, falls, and catches his head against the stone fireplace. Maverick moves in and checks his pulse, worried about his old ally. He's still alive. But is that what Maverick wants? Why is he relieved by that? Maverick keeps his gun trained on Barrington. This is the perfect time to kill him. That's why he's here, after all. That's what Pushkin wants. But why is he taking orders from Pushkin? Pain suddenly stabs through Maverick's mind, and he has flashes, memories of being brainwashed. He remembers Elena's role in it, but he doesn't blame her. The memories flood back to him now. The fight with Hammer and Sickle, the cellar of Pushkin's manor, the brainwashing, everything. Having done so, Maverick's mind is now clear. Pushkin manipulated him into this. But for him to have believed the crime lord so readily, Maverick must have suspected some of this already, even if he wouldn't admit it to himself. Maverick looks at Barrington again. All the accusations fit together so neatly, and it would be so easy to kill him now. Before he can do anything, though, Vindicator and Puck order him to stop. Maverick explains what happened, saying that Barrington is bruised, but he's fine. Puck tells him to save it for Director Cloche, and that gets Maverick's attention. Pierre Cloche is here? The Alphans want to know why that name means something to him. Maverick then explains about Pushkin and the brainwashing and why he was sent to kill Barrington. Puck recognizes the name Pushkin and knows how dangerous he can be. Maverick then suggests that Cloche, as head of foreign affairs, is in a way better position to harm Pushkin's operations than Barrington. So what if he was sent here to clear the way for the real assassin? After all, Maverick disabled the security measures, downed the guards, and distracted the Alphans. It's perfect. Vindicator isn't quite sold on this story yet, but they can't take the risk that it isn't true. Puck stays with Barrington to keep an eye on him, while Vindicator and Maverick go after Cloche. I like this plan within a plan. Hammer and Sickle are way too dumb and loud to get through Cloche's security measures, so it makes sense that they would need a more skilled operative like Maverick to disable them. I'd been wondering why Pushkin would have gone to all the trouble to recruit Maverick, and, well, I'm not sure this is a good reason, but at least it's something. I'll probably come back to this thought eventually once I've seen if this is the end of Pushkin's manipulations. I also like Maverick fighting through the brainwashing. He is a strong-willed guy, surviving some pretty heavy battles while still dying of the legacy virus. Even if it took him some time, I like that he managed to push through. I was super glad that he spoke to Barrington instead of just kicking in the door and shooting him. I mentioned that Maverick would want answers before death last episode, and I'm glad that Gonzalez was aware of that character trait. However, he does still suspect that there's a kernel of truth to Barrington manipulating him. The only question left is, how true is it? I guess we'll find out. Elsewhere in the lodge, a blackout has left Pierre Cloche in the dark. The emergency generators should have turned on in response to a power outage. Concerned, Cloche tries to leave the room, but he finds that he's locked in. Sickle emerges from the darkness and his weapon snaps to life. He starts a swinging, but Cloche manages to dodge until Vindicator and Maverick burn into the room. Vindicator, able to manipulate geothermal phenomenon with her suit, pulled up some lava and burned through the floor, allowing them to enter the room. Maverick lands a perfectly timed kick, disarming Sickle, but the killer just moves on. Sickle doesn't need his blade to kill Cloche. He wraps a thin arm around Cloche's neck and starts to choke him. Unwilling to let that happen, Maverick picks up and starts swinging the sickle himself, and he manages to slash it across its owner's eye. Sickle drops in pain, his eye slashed out. Reinforcements are summoned, Sickle is cuffed and treated, and Cloche thanks Maverick for his aid. He insists that he also stay around to be debriefed, and Maverick's willing, but they aren't done yet. Sickle is only half of a set, and Hammer hasn't been seen yet. Maverick suddenly realizes that Hammer was his backup. Pushkin wouldn't have risked the success of this mission on Maverick's brainwashing. Maverick, Vindicator, and Cloche rush to Barrington's room, but they're too late. Hammer knocked Puck out, and Barrington is dead. Maverick kicks himself for not seeing this plan sooner. Now, any hope that he had for answers is dead. Not long after, the perimeter guards bring in Elena and Isabel. They came here thinking that they would save Maverick, but he clearly has things in hand. Maverick is super glad to see them alive and well. Remember, he thought that Pushkin had Isabel and her daughter Maddie killed. Elena tells him about the devices that Langstrom implanted in his skull, but Maverick says that he already knew about them. That's what was causing his headaches. The implants must have fused once he broke free of their control, because he seems to be fine now. Elena insists that he see a doctor, but Maverick says that can wait. He just remembered that it has been weeks since he spoke to Chris. The kid probably thinks that he's dead. Maverick pulls out his chatterbox and calls Chris. After 2 weeks of hearing nothing from Maverick, Chris has gotten pretty scared, lonely, and confused. He wants out, to be free, to have a break, if only for a few days. He ties up his shoes, sneaks out through a window into the rainy Floridian night, and is gone. Chris doesn't hear his chatterbox vreep. So we had a plan within a plan within a plan! We have been told numerous times now by numerous people about how dangerous Pushkin is, but I think that this is where he really feels like a smart, cunning villain. Puck even says that he is more dangerous than the Kingpin, which, okay, calm down here. The Kingpin's had years of being dangerous, Pushkin's brand new. Let's not go crazy. Pushkin's manipulation of Maverick, the one person that he could turn against Barrington, was pretty spot on. He even planned for Maverick to break free, which I like. I'm still not sure why, out of all of the characters in the Marvel Universe, that Maverick was the one that Pushkin needed to send after Barrington, though. Let's look at this. 3 months ago, Henry Dubois was identified by Major Barrington as a member or ally of Pushkin and was helping to expand his operations. He was arrested, which scared Francois, who was interrogated by Hammer and Sickle and then killed. Confirming that it was Barrington who was dismantling his Canadian operations, Pushkin needed him dead. So, he spent 3 months getting a lead on a dying Maverick, planning to brainwash him and sending him to kill Barrington. What he found was a healthy Maverick and, bonus, the telepathic Elena, who he was able to use in his efforts of brainwashing. Maverick was then sent after Barrington with the intent of killing him, but with the backup mission of clearing the way for Hammer to do the actual job himself. Okay. So still, why Maverick? Why not buy one of Barrington's guards instead and have him kill him? Or use one of the many, many assassins that exist in the Marvel Universe? I understand that this is Maverick's book, so whatever needs to happen to him, but why go to all the trouble to brainwash a dying man into killing for you? There doesn't seem to be a reason presented here. Sure, you can say that Pushkin wanted Maverick because of his past connections to Barrington, but so what? Maverick, Wolverine, and John Wraith all have connections to Barrington too, and he didn't try to brainwash any of them. Hell, Sabretooth would have been happy to tear up some Alpha Flight members and kill Barrington if the price was right. This just seems like a lot of time, work, and expense to manipulate a man who you suspect will break free of your control anyway. There might still be a larger, even more manipulative plan at work here, as Gonzalez has shown good reasoning for doing what he's doing before, but I'm kind of starting to doubt here. I'm also annoyed that Hammer was stealthy enough to kill Barrington. That man is not built for quiet. And he took down Puck. Puck's whole shtick is that he is small and tough. He's exactly the kind of opponent that Hammer would underestimate and get beaten by if we were reading an issue of Alpha Flight. Eugene is specifically called Puck because he was designed after a hockey puck. He's small, he's tough, he can get smacked around, but he bounces back. Hammer would have hit him, he'd have taken that hit, bounced off of a wall, and then body slammed into Hammer's face. But this isn't an issue of Alpha Flight. It's an issue of Maverick, and the narratives that exist as part of Maverick's book need to move forward. That means that Barrington has to die, even if Puck needs to take a fall in order to do it. Cheung's artwork here is still a bit of a mismatch, but he does well overall. There are also some weakly colored scenes throughout the issue, and there is a coloring mistake on Vindicator's costume. It still fits her color scheme of green, white, and gold nicely, but it is a mistake. Also, there are still lettering mistakes in this. Coloring can be really time-consuming, I get that. I can see why Kevin Sommers might not have had time to add some flourish to the lava when Vindicator and Maverick burst into Cloche's room. But lettering really isn't that bad. To be fair, my experience with lettering is happening in the now, when the programs that we have to do it have had decades to be perfected, and I have dozens of tutorials to watch or read in order to learn how to do it. Digital lettering had only really become a thing in the 90s, and even then I'm not sure of exactly when, so I don't know how much experience Heliopolis and Virtual Lettering have with their programs. It definitely looks digital, but given my lack of knowledge, I'm trying to temper my expectations. I do feel like there are less errors in issue 3 than there had been previously, so I do feel like they're starting to get better. Issue 4 starts off in Manhattan's West Village, near Washington Square Park. There, we find Chris Bradley, once again a wanderin'. The overcast skies and heavy downpour match Chris's mood pretty perfectly. All he wants is a break from the never-ending trial that is his life. He makes his way into the park, scanning the crowd for a familiar face. It takes a moment, but eventually, Donna Funaro finds him, and they hug. Gross rain hugs. I hate being damp. Donna, in case you missed it, is the girl that Chris asked out back in X-Men Unlimited issue 8, but she hasn't heard from him since he moved to Florida. They're both happy to see each other, and they catch up as best they can. They begin to leave the park, but are stopped when an energy blast detonates the ground at their feet. Surrounding the teens are a handful of heavily armed members of the Friends of Humanity. Struggling to speak through his cough, Chris asks how they found him. Their front man, who calls himself Grinder, gleefully explains that they tapped Donna's phone line. The friends have been waiting for the little mutie to call his girlfriend. One of the men, later called Cheeks, approaches Donna and she tells him to back off. Cheek slaps her, and then Chris, pissed off, charges at him. Cheeks shoots the plasma cannon at Chris's feet, knocking him down again, and Grinder steps up to Chris. Weasel and Jumbo are still smarting from their run-in with Chris back in X-Men Unlimited issue 15. Just where has this freak been hiding? To answer his question, Chris kicks Grinder back. This prompts the friend to hit him across the face with a freaking Gatling gun. The blow seems to shake Chris. His skin starts to burn, his head is pounding, and his coughing intensifies. Donna tries to point out how sick Chris is, hoping for mercy from the friends, but Grinder smiles. Oh, they know he's sick. Why do you think they want him dead so badly? He kicks Chris into the wet ground and then spits on him. Can't risk a sick mutie infecting the good humans in the population. The pain, the stress, it's all finally too much for Chris. His powers spike out of control, shocking Grinder and driving the rest of the friends back. Even passerbys can see Chris's display, shouting about evil mutants on a rampage. One of them even asks where the Thunderbolts are, a cute nod to another Marvel book and Super Team. Chris concentrates, utilizing the mental techniques that he learned from the X-Men. He manages to stop the flow of electricity, and Donna helps him up. Pain-free, now that his powers have been released, they book it. The kids don't get far, though, as they run right into a dead end. The friends close in on them easily. Time to pay for that little stunt, freak. So focused are the friends on Chris that they don't see a figure jump onto their hover platform, which, hang on, I'm sorry. These guys have a hover platform? This is actually one of the things that I really dislike about this particular issue the most. Gonzalez and Cheung use the rainy backgrounds to hide the number of Friends of Humanity and their equipment. At times, there are only 4 attackers, then a page later there are 6, and then halfway into the book they have a dang blasted hover platform. I don't like this make-it-up-as-you-go method that they're using to tell this story. Anyways, Maverick and Elena jump onto the hover platform, and they take it over. Maverick aims the twin-barreled cannon at the friends, while Elena pilots it. Hey, racists! They all turn. I would back the no swearing off. Grinder, too stupid to retreat, says that he thought Maverick was dead, but clearly that isn't the case. Maverick opens fire on the Friends of Humanity, scattering them, and the craft drops down next to Chris and Donna. Elena provides cover fire as the kids climb on board, Maverick chastising Chris for doing so bad a job at covering his tracks. Once they're secure, though, they begin to fly away. Grinder orders his fellows not to let them escape, and Cheeks steps up with his cannon. He blasts the hover platform out of the sky, although he fails to hurt any of our heroes. Maverick orders Elena and the kids to run while he holds the friends off. He uses his concussive blasts to knock 2 of them down, then turns and makes to follow his friends. He reaches over his shoulder for a rifle from his pack's armor, but the weapon melts in his hands. He hadn't charged up, and he didn't try to melt the gun. Pushkin warned him that his remission might be temporary and that his powers might fail him, but so soon? This moment of hesitation gave Grinder a chance to catch up. He shouts a threat to Maverick, who spins and smacks Grinder upside the head with his melted rifle. Nice to see that it can still be a good weapon. But, wanting a new one, Maverick picks up Grinder's Gatling gun and aims it at the hovercraft's gas tank. It explodes, and I guess it catches some of the Friends of Humanity? I'm assuming that some portion of the Friends got past Maverick and were continuing to chase Elena and the kids, so Maverick was stopping them. It's super hard to tell. Like I said earlier, the story and art don't really establish a number of enemies or the lay of the land. So, wow, Gonzalez gets us right into this issue. I haven't really taken a moment to examine much of why or what's happening here, because Gonzalez doesn't waste any time. I mean, I think page 2 has the friends attack Chris, and things don't really ever let up from there. But Gonzalez caught us up with Chris, and through narration boxes and dialogue, explains how Chris caught a bus to New York and how he and Donna feel about being split up and now reunited. I had wondered how Donna took Chris's move to Florida, and while we don't get into detail or a lot of character depth here, I'm glad that Gonzalez took the time to at least establish it. Having the Friends of Humanity show up right on their trail gives me some mixed feelings. I mean, I like them as a recurring threat. Despite their guns and hover platform here, the Friends aren't really a threat to something like the X-Men, so we don't get to see them very often in other X books. As a grassroots threat of armed racists, they're a pretty good match for a scared kid and a sick mercenary, and I really like that they haven't forgotten their ass-kicking from X-Men Unlimited issue 15. As stupid as I thought Weasel, Jumbo, and Headcase were, they're people in the Marvel Universe, and I'm glad to see them referenced. I'd be annoyed if they were here, but this amount of a reference works for me. I also like the implied power behind the Friends of Humanity. Saying that they've bugged the Funaros phone lines means that they have friends in the phone company, and it really demonstrates how even if someone isn't actively trying to kill a mutant, their actions can still hurt them. It also shows how desperate the Friends are to find a mutant to kill. We, as readers, spend so much time with the X-Men or other X groups that mutants feel commonplace to us, but they weren't that common in the 90s era Marvel Universe. Having found Chris Bradley, the Friends want this victory, so they are going to extreme lengths to kill him. However, they screw this up in every way possible, and this is one of my biggest complaints here. The Friends approached Chris in public, they gloated unnecessarily, and they fired a lot of warning shots. These idiots had tons of times to just shoot Chris and walk the hell away. And they are ridiculously overarmed. I mentioned the hovercraft, which, come on, who is giving hovercrafts to racist hate groups? And they've got things like plasma cannons and Gatling guns. This is no swearing. Stupid. If Grindr had just walked up to Chris in the park, pulled out a handgun, shot him, and then got TFO, they may have actually killed him. Not that I want Chris dead. I just hate dumb villains, and these guys are too well-supported, well-armed, and clearly well-informed to be this stupid. But they are stupid, and I hate that, especially after having such a good showing from Pushkin last issue. Gonzalez also has Chris cough a lot throughout, indicating how bad his infection has gotten, which is a small detail that I appreciate. I liked Chris remembering his training too, which is a nice use of world building. I don't know why Chris still isn't using his powers to fight back at all. I mean, he has electrical powers, and these guys are standing in the rain. Come on, kid! Put some work in! The explosion of the hovercraft was heard throughout the neighborhood. This includes the man called Logan, who was on his way back home to his apartment. He sniffs at the air, scenting out Maverick, Chris, and someone else. He snaps his hand out and snags Elena's arm as she runs by, stopping her. So just what is a KGB telepath doing in the East Village? Logan seems to know Elena, but she corrects him. She's ex-KGB. And they haven't seen each other since, the Terry Adams affair? Chris, having finally caught up, jumps in here trying to get Logan to let her go. They need to run. The Friends of Humanity are right behind them. Maverick comes running up next, with gunfire close behind. He's glad to see Logan, and asks if he's ready for a fight. Logan smiles, and his 3 bone claws pop out from his knuckles. You better believe he is. Chris and Donna hide as Logan, Maverick, and Elena fight back against the Friends pretty well. But Elena points out that they're still in the open, and who knows when their reinforcements will arrive. They need a plan. And so Maverick offers one. After filling her in on it, Maverick then goes to the kids. He tells Donna that she needs to run. The Friends of Humanity are after them, not her. If she runs, she'll no longer be a target. But the mutants need to get out of here. Chris says bye, and then he, Maverick, and Elena make for a nearby sewer opening. But Cheeks spots them and fires, the blast igniting an open gas line, consuming the 3. Donna screams. Having finally killed a mutant, the Friends of Humanity have no wish to continue their fight with the very dangerous Logan. They all book it, leaving him in the rain, alone. He makes his way to a nearby rooftop, and finds an exhausted Elena sitting there. Turns out, she telepathically made the Friends think that they had all died in that explosion, when clearly they did not. She mentally pitched the plan to Logan, as it took him still being there to scare the Friends off, keeping them from investigating further. He wasn't happy about the plan or the mental intrusion, but he has to admit that it works. Unfortunately, Donna was not filled in on the plan, and she now thinks that Chris is dead. Logan can understand why they're keeping her in the dark, but man, it's almost too cruel. Nearby, Maverick watches Chris as the teen mentally beats himself up. Donna now thinks that he's dead, and he can't even tell her otherwise, all because he wanted his old life back for a moment. Maverick tries to console him. At least now the Friends of Humanity will be off of his trail. As long as they think that he's dead, the Bradleys, and Donna should be safe. But that is cold comfort to Chris. Hang on, I'm sorry, Brian Johnson. Chris Bradley is dead, and he's going to need to learn to live with that. His anger spent, Brian, apologizes for running off, for leaving his chatterbox behind. For everything, really. But he hadn't heard from Maverick in so long, and he just felt so alone. Maverick rests a hand on Brian's shoulder. He's stuck with Maverick, whether he likes it or not. For now, though, it's time to head back home. Before they leave, Logan stops them. He needs to talk to Maverick for a minute. Privately. When Logan picked up Maverick's scent earlier, he could smell that Maverick's health had changed. Has he told the kid about this remission yet? And no, Maverick answers. He wants to keep it that way. Logan doesn't like lying to Chris, even on Maverick's behalf. He deserves to know. If Maverick is treating this like some sick game, he shoves Maverick against a nearby wall, and Chris sees it happening, cutting the threat short. Hey! He walks over. WTF, man? Logan bristles. He isn't sure that Maverick is such a good influence on Chris anymore. But Chris defends Maverick. If it wasn't for Maverick, he'd probably be dead right now, twice over. Plus, no one else is going through what they're going through, referencing the legacy virus. Maverick might be rough around the edges, sure, but he's the only one who knows what Chris is experiencing. They're friends, so Logan needs to back off. This is where Maverick steps back in, telling Chris to calm down. He can handle this himself. Once the teen has backed away, Maverick turns to Logan. Well, you heard him. He needs to think that Maverick is dying too, even if for now that's a lie. Logan warns that if Chris figures this out, he will be hurt, and he may never trust Maverick again. But Maverick is aware of the potential cost, but that's the risk that he just has to take. The kid needs a friend right now. And besides, Maverick's remission is probably temporary. While Logan doesn't know it, Maverick's power has begun to act up, so the virus's return is plaguing his mind. The two old soldiers pause for a moment in the rain. Then Logan sighs. Fine. He'll keep Maverick's secret for now, for the kid's sake. But he'll be watching Maverick. Maverick can live with that. Watch all you want, Logan. Just stay out of his way. Ooh, boy, what a downer of an issue. The solution to the Friends of Humanity problem is a cleverly used one, even if it's not terribly inventive. I feel like I saw this exact same solution played out on multiple episodes of Burn Notice, so it does have a bit of a been there, done that vibe to me. We continue to have Maverick as the plan guy, which is Gonzalez hinting at our lead's tactical nature. I appreciate that Gonzalez also keeps telepathic moves as exhausting for Elena as original author Larry Hama. She is a trained telepath, but she isn't skilled or have the years of practice that someone like a member of the X-Men would have, so she gets pretty worn out here. I'm still not 100% sold on how necessary Logan was to this issue. He doesn't really add anything or is a critical player here. He is used to highlight Maverick's remission and how he doesn't tell Chris, but otherwise he's fairly useless. I think that Logan is here to sell the book in a much more superficial way than, say, Vindicator and Puck were last issue. It makes sense that the Canadian government would lend some superpowered weight to protecting an important witness, and Maverick just happened to be targeting that witness. But Logan is just luckily in town at the exact same moment that this attack on Chris happens. I'm not saying that that can't happen, but it's just so coincidental that I can't quite buy it. While I enjoyed the overall plot elements here, there's little emotional weight to this issue. Chris's story is basically a repeat of X-Men Unlimited issue 15. Chris runs away, puts someone in danger from the Friends of Humanity, Wolverine helps save the day, and Chris is sent off into exile. Just, again, with better artwork. Outside of that, he's still a sad sack with anger issues, snapping at people before apologizing for snapping at people. I barely feel anything at the loss of Donna, because honestly that relationship hasn't mattered in publication years at this point to either of those characters. This whole issue is just kind of gray emotionally, which is probably what author Gonzalez was going for. So, a sad, depressed clap for you, Mr. Gonzalez, I guess. The same can be said for the artwork here. With this issue placed at night in the rain, most of this issue is blue. Abu di abu di, abu di abu di, abu di abu di. Or gray blue, or yellow blue. This isn't really a bad thing, but when Chris's powers kick in, they're colored red. This is odd, as his electricity has been previously colored blue or purple. It also doesn't glow like energy should. And I know that colorist Kevin Sommers can make colors glow because he previously did it with Hammer and Sickle's weapons. I also think that inker Andrew Pepoy used a thicker line for the characters in this, allowing him to use his standard thinner line on the rain streaks that plague this issue. I actually like this, as Cheung's artwork has a pretty animated feeling to begin with, and a thicker line weight heightens that visual element. The rain streaks, occupying so much of the artwork, also eliminates a need for backgrounds, which allows Cheung to focus on his figures and their faces. But we ain't done with this issue yet. The next night, at the Waldorf Astoria Hotel, we find Elena combing through some paperwork. Remember, Elena joined up with Maverick in order to get revenge on his old Team X teammate, Victor Creed, aka Sabretooth. She put off that mission to care for Maverick since he was dying, but he isn't dying anymore. She is now back on the hunt, but has gained no useful information about him. The last sighting she has for him was in Western Canada, but that was months ago. The door rattles, spooking her. Elena scoops up her disruptor and spins around, only to find Maverick. He got Brian back home safely and caught an early flight back. The Johnsons were glad to have their son back, but Maverick isn't sure how he feels about his life right now. After all, the past few weeks have been a mess. Maverick's death and rebirth, his memories returning, his remission, the brainwashing, the Barrington thing. It's worn on him, and it's got him on edge all at the same time. Elena tells him that he doesn't have to bear it all alone. There are people who care for him. But Maverick can't trust the people close to him. If he has to choose companionship or loneliness, then he'll choose loneliness. Elena gently hugs him from behind. He really doesn't have to be alone. Maverick spins. Whoa, slow down. She needs to think this through. But Elena has. She isn't rushing into this. She knows that she isn't in love with Maverick, and that he isn't in love with her. And that's okay with her. What's wrong with two adults finding comfort in each other's arms? She steps closer and removes his mask. They have no way of knowing what tomorrow will bring. Maverick should know that better than most. They move in together and kiss, and then move into the bedroom. Ooh la la! But the camera moves to Elena's desk, where we see all of her files on Sabretooth. Is Elena getting closer to Maverick in order to use him against Sabretooth? Or is this a genuine interest? Or maybe she just really wanted to do the horizontal tango. Guess we'll find out. I gotta say, I'm glad to see Elena's story moving to the forefront of the book. She has been a pretty background player in this book so far, despite proving an ample aid for Maverick. Elena has a lot more depth and history than just being a sidekick, so I'm happy about this. Although I'm not sure what sighting of Sabretooth that Elena is referring to. At this point in X Factor, Creed had decimated the team and escaped. In fact, X Factor issue 138, which was published only a month before Maverick issue 4, actually featured Omega Red going after Sabretooth. Red was actually trying to capture Creed in order to trade him to Elena for the carbonadium synthesizer. It's too bad that didn't work out for him. I would love to have seen that plot referenced here in this book. So I'm left with a general feeling of lameness from this issue. Issue 4 didn't further Maverick's narrative or explore anything new about Chris at all. I think that this one is meant to be more of a palate cleanser between our previous arc, which heavily featured Pushkin, and our upcoming arc, which will heavily feature Sabretooth, if you couldn't guess. Next week, Maverick and Elena discuss the options of going after Sabretooth, and they do not see eye to eye. Getting some air to cool down crosses Maverick's path with that of my favorite member of the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, the immovable Blob. Then, one way or another, for better or for worse, Issue 6 sends us after Victor Creed. See you next week.
Everyone, there are a million podcasts vying for your time and attention, and I'd like to thank you for listening to mine. If you would like to get in touch with me, to share a concern, request a series, compliment me, berate me, whatever you like, send me an email at cbbreakdown@gmail.com. Otherwise, thanks for listening.